the Chief Executive Officer, RAC Center, will be our lead discussant for today's first plenary session. Please welcome Lars Johannisson.
Lars Johannisson is a leader driven by transformation, innovation, and impact. As the Chief Executive Officer of RAC Center, Lars brings over 14 years of experience leading organizations across telecom, IT delivery, managed services, and digital skilling in more than 30 sub-Saharan African countries. Armed with an MBA from the Stockholm School of Economics and executive training from Stanford University, he's not just building systems, he's building futures. Lars has championed digital and economic inclusion, empowering African youth through IT training and employment partnerships with major global organizations. Before joining RAC Center, he served as CEO of Teleperformance Sub-Saharan Africa and held leadership roles at Ericsson, SolarNow, and YNV Group, shaping strategies that merge technology, innovation, and human potential. Lars Johannisson stands at the crossroads of purpose and progress, leading the charge for a digitally inclusive Africa.
Good morning, or good afternoon, actually. I think we had a couple of slides to show. Is that correct? Can you help me out with that? Thanks. Standing on previous protocols, it's a pleasure to be here today. It's actually my third intervention and participation of this very relevant event. Myself, Lars Johannisson, I have actually more than 15 years. It made me feel very young. I have actually 25 years, but it's good to start in a fresh manner. I'm heading up RAC Center. RAC Center is a Nigerian data center. It's an integral part of the infrastructure that we're building in this country. I'm very, very pleased to announce that we were assisted by the governor in April by launching the largest data center in Nigeria, in Western Africa, and outside South Africa. And I think that's worthy an applause because that's putting Nigeria where it should be when it comes to digital infrastructure. I would like to set the scene with a few slides of what I believe are the kind of cornerstones of why my peers in the industry are building digital infrastructure, in my case, data centers. So go to the first slide, please. There are four shifts that both are supporting our investments in Nigeria and our continuous growth journey. The first one is that we see a massive shift to the localized cloud and hosting. This has happened for several years, but I would say that change has never been so slow as it is today. We talk about sovereignty, not just because it's good to have your data around a corner, but it actually adds national resilience, it reduces latency, and actually becomes a compliance aspect. This has happened the whole time, is growing exponentially in Nigeria. The second one is the rapid adoption of what I call the AI, the edge, and cloud native. And I think it's relevant for me to talk about it from a Lagos perspective, because out of the 36 states, we all can agree that where this evolution is going to happen first and to the highest degree will be Lagos. When we extend mobile broadband from 5G into 5G standalone with a separate core network, when we start to see that the 5G reaches out to even more people in the Lagos state, when we start to connect the different devices all together, you will essentially see an explosion of data traffic, both man to machine, man to man, and machine between machine. Remember one thing, that anyone else in this audience that have a smart TV, the first 15 minutes that smart TV works, it connects about to 700 different IP addresses, every single TV. Add that with the kind of growth in that area, you're going to see a massive growth in the data traffic. The third one is very relevant for me as heading up RAC Center. You cannot have digitalization separate from a sustainability message. At RAC Center, we talk about sustainable digitalization. That means that we grow, we invest in infrastructure, but we need to have it in a sustainable manner. This is something we can both learn from other regions, other countries, but I think we have a golden opportunity to shape that future right now. And that I think we're doing together with peers in the industry and the RAC Center. We need to have an energy mix which is aligned to our sustainable requirements. It cannot be diesel engines running 24/7. We migrated to better carbon mix and we added gas, and we're moving into solar. But I think the whole energy discussion is something we're going to talk about in the team later on. The fourth one is probably the most relevant one. We will talk a bit later on how we see the growth and why we see the growth journey. A couple of reasons I mentioned before, but we still have a huge untapped population that is not really part of the digital inclusion. It's sometimes both fascinating and scaring and interesting to see how fast AI is happening. But let us be clear on one thing. This cannot happen without embedding more people into the digital economy. We need to have more people being part of it at every single level in society and also at every single enterprise, the small, medium, and not only large enterprise. If we capture that one as an industry, both from public administration and to industry players, I think we've done magic. But let us not forget about the untapped opportunity to embed people into something we believe firmly is a good evolution. Next slide, please. I was about to talk about megawatts and how big and sizable data center can be, but I want to put it on a global perspective of something that is radically changing. I think the data centers was talked about as data centers. I think we're building the utility for the future. Data center is just a big, big utility, and it's a power-hungry utility. I would say 5 years back, the power generation came to data centers. Moving forward, it's going to be the data centers moving to where the power resides. And that's why you see growth in many locations that can provide power. And that opens up a lot of discussions, how do you address this in Lagos, in Nigeria, and in sub-Saharan Africa? Because if the region as such represents 18 to 19% of the world population, you can see by the figures on my left and right side that both our participation in terms of what we generate the power and what data center installed base is, we are relatively small. We will not be able to grow the data and digitize society unless we can also energize not only data center, but energize and give access to all millions of people not having access to that today. Then there is not a complete digitalization. Power comes to the data center versus data center comes to power. This is the whole industry topic today, and I think we are in a good position to work on that together because it will take time. Nigeria has the energy transition plan, we're working with it, and but there's way to go in this area. Next one, please. You probably heard Mr. Lacke as commissioner. He talked a lot about different initiatives, and I talk about the 4 Ps. The 4 Ps I consider to be very relevant for us and the industry to drive the digitized Lagos further. It very much in a high degree aligns with his message. I do believe that number 1, infrastructure, in my case, power has to come into place. Unless we fix the power, we have essentially excluded Nigeria and Lagos from a lot of growth opportunities and the digitized journey. Number 2 is the people side. I have had the pleasure to build up a skilling business in Nigeria a couple of years back. I also worked with enterprise support for large American hyperscalers out of Nigeria. Fantastic journey. There is no lack of competence, but we need, as corporate citizens, to bring in more opportunities for those very skilled people out there. There's not a skill shortage in Nigeria. It's excess and a lack of opportunity sometimes. If we can embed the digital skilling into this one, you will see how the whole digitalization will further explode and be enhanced to carry more people. The third one is something I think both federal and Lagos State has done good. It does work on the policy development. I've been part myself of the Lagos innovation policy that Mr. Lacke mentioned before. I've worked with NITA on the technical side, and I think the policies and also on the federal side on AI policies are actually doing the right thing at the right time. They're building a policy framework for the future, and that's very encouraging to see. The last one is also the role of public administration. I think one of the biggest benefiter of a digitized economy would be the citizens itself. How do you close the gap between administration and the citizens? And you can do that by embedding a cloud environment. I have always said the same thing, that I'm volunteer to assist in any project where we can do that from our side, where I can contribute, because I think it's the right initiative from our side. and I would like to see public administration do more of what I call POCs. Drive small initiatives, leverage the private investments, leverage the opportunities we have, and show scale once you've done the POC. Last slide, please. So, summarizing, before we go into the panel session, I'm very proud to represent the large data center. I'm very proud to think of sustainability from a Nigerian growth perspective. I'm very happy to work with Lagos State. I've done that for several years now. I will continue to reach out every single time I have an opportunity to work with Lagos State, because art of technology is something very relevant in Lagos, is relevant for me, and I think this is probably the best and most relevant state out of all where you're going to see the digitized revolution happen first. This is Lagos, and this is the birthplace of what I call the digitized Nigeria. And I'll leave it with you that. I will hand over to our moderator. We'll talk about more of the infrastructure's role and what we can do jointly. But thank you for being here.